Who is Tommy Flanagan? The man behind Roderick Dustin. House of the Dragon, warning, spoiler warning. This video contains spoilers for House of the Dragon Season 3, including Roderick Dustin's story and the Battle of Tumbleton. If you watched House of the Dragon Season 3 and suddenly found yourself asking, "Where have I seen Roderick Dustin before?" you're not alone. The man playing Roddy the Ruin is Scottish actor Tommy Flanagan, a familiar face who has spent decades playing memorable characters across television and film. And his casting as Roderick Dustin is particularly fitting. Flanagan has built a career playing tough, intimidating, and battle-hardened characters. But he's also shown that he can bring surprising emotion and depth to those roles. So who exactly is Tommy Flanagan? How did he become an actor? What are his most famous roles? And why was he such a perfect choice to play Roddy the Ruin in House of the Dragon? Let's take a look. 1. Who is Tommy Flanagan? Tommy Flanagan is a Scottish actor born in Glasgow, Scotland in 1965. Before becoming a professional actor, Flanagan worked a number of different jobs, including as a painter and decorator and as a DJ. His path into acting wasn't necessarily something that happened overnight. He eventually became involved with the Rain Dog Theatre Company in Glasgow, where he developed his acting experience. That eventually led to opportunities in television and film. And one of his earliest major breaks came in a movie that many fans will immediately recognize, Braveheart. 2. Tommy Flanagan in Braveheart. In 1995, Flanagan appeared in Mel Gibson's historical epic, Braveheart. He played Morrison, a Scottish warrior fighting alongside William Wallace. It wasn't the biggest role in the movie, but it helped introduce Flanagan to a much larger international audience. And there's something interesting about looking back at that performance now. Even in Braveheart, Flanagan had the physical presence that would later become one of his trademarks. He looked like someone who belonged on a battlefield. That makes his transition from Morrison in Braveheart to Roderick Dustin in House of the Dragon feel almost perfect. Both characters are hardened warriors. Both are surrounded by war. And both are defined by their loyalty and willingness to fight. 3. His famous role in Gladiator. A few years later, Flanagan appeared in another massive historical epic, Gladiator. He played Cicero, one of Maximus's allies. Again, it wasn't the largest role in the movie, but Flanagan has always had the ability to make relatively limited screen time memorable. That's partly because of his distinctive appearance and voice. And those characteristics have helped him stand out even when he's surrounded by enormous casts. His filmography also includes movies such as Face Off, Sin City, Alien vs. Predator, Smoking Aces, and Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. 4. The role that made him a household name. But for many viewers, Tommy Flanagan will always be Chibs. In FX's Sons of Anarchy, Flanagan played Filip Chibs Telford, one of the most important members of the motorcycle club. The series ran for 7 seasons, and Chibs became one of Flanagan's defining roles. Chibs was tough, he was loyal, he was experienced. But he wasn't simply a stereotypical tough guy. Flanagan gave the character humor, vulnerability, and emotional depth. And that is an important reason why his casting as Roderick Dustin works so well. 5. Tommy Flanagan's distinctive facial scars. There's another feature that makes Flanagan immediately recognizable. The scars across his face are real. They resulted from a violent attack in Glasgow when Flanagan was younger, after he had been working as a DJ. The scars became one of his most recognizable physical features. And interestingly, they have often helped him portray characters who look like they've lived through difficult experiences. That works extremely well for Roderick Dustin. Roddy isn't supposed to look like a polished courtier. He's a warrior who has spent years fighting. He's supposed to look like someone who has survived battles. Flanagan already carries that history in his appearance. 6. Why was Tommy Flanagan perfect for Roddy the Ruin? This is probably the most interesting part. Roderick Dustin is one of the most intimidating warriors introduced in Season 3. But the character isn't simply a violent fighter. He's an experienced commander. He's a leader. He's an older warrior who understands exactly what war costs. And Flanagan has spent much of his career playing characters who combine toughness with emotional complexity. That's particularly visible in his performance as Chibs. Chibs could be threatening one moment and deeply emotional the next. Roddy requires a similar balance. He has to feel dangerous enough that you believe he can lead soldiers into impossible battles. But he also has to feel human enough that viewers understand why his men would follow him. Flanagan brings exactly that kind of presence. 7. Roddy the Ruin and Chibs have something in common. There is actually an interesting similarity between the two characters. Both are leaders who earn loyalty through experience. Chibs isn't respected simply because someone gave him a title. He earns that respect over years of surviving alongside the people around him. Roderick Dustin works in a similar way. He's Lord of Barrowton, but his reputation isn't based solely on being a lord. He's respected because he fights alongside his men. The Winter Wolves follow him because they know he's willing to face the same dangers they are facing. That's why Roddy's final battle is so powerful. He doesn't send someone else to do the dangerous work. He leads from the front. 8. His role in the Battle of Tumbleton. And this is where Tommy Flanagan's performance becomes especially memorable. During the Battle of Tumbleton, Roderick Dustin leads the Winter Wolves against the Hightower forces. The odds are heavily against them, but Roddy refuses to back down. He pushes toward the Green Command and eventually reaches Ormond Hightower. The confrontation becomes one of the most brutal moments of the season. Roderick is badly wounded, but he keeps fighting, and he ultimately kills Ormond Hightower and Sir Brendan Hightower before dying from his own injuries. The Season 3 finale has made that sequence one of the defining moments of Roddy's story, and it also demonstrates why Tommy Flanagan was such an effective choice. The character needs to look like someone who simply refuses to stop. Flanagan has that physical intensity naturally. 9. Why fans recognize him so quickly. One reason Flanagan works so well in House of the Dragon is that he has an extremely recognizable screen presence. His voice, his Scottish accent, his facial scars, his physical appearance, and especially the way he delivers dialogue. For longtime fans, seeing him appear in Westeros can immediately trigger that reaction. I know this guy from somewhere. And once they realize he's Tommy Flanagan, his career suddenly makes the casting make sense. You've seen him play warriors, gang members, soldiers, criminals, and hardened survivors. Now he's playing one of the most feared warriors of the Dance of the Dragons. It's almost a perfect combination. 10. What makes his Roderick Dustin different? The biggest difference is that Roddy isn't simply another tough guy role. There's a certain sadness underneath the character. The Winter Wolves aren't young men expecting glory. They're experienced soldiers who understand that their campaign could be their last. And Roderick knows this. That gives his character a sense of finality. He's not fighting because he thinks war is glorious. He's fighting because he believes the cause is worth the sacrifice. That makes his final moments more powerful. And Tommy Flanagan gives Roddy that feeling without needing to explain everything through dialogue. Final thoughts. So, who is Tommy Flanagan? He's a Scottish actor whose career stretches across some of Hollywood's biggest movies and television shows. From Braveheart, to Gladiator, to Sons of Anarchy, to Sin City, Alien vs. Predator, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, and many other projects, Flanagan has picked a reputation for playing memorable and often intimidating characters. But his performance as Roderick Dustin gives him another character that fits his career surprisingly well. Roddy the Ruin is a warrior. He's a commander, he's a survivor, and he's someone whose men are willing to follow him into almost certain death. That's exactly why Tommy Flanagan feels so believable in the role. His history of playing hardened characters gives Roddy an immediate sense of authenticity, while his experience with more emotional characters allows the performance to go beyond simply being intimidating. And after the Battle of Tumbleton, Roddy's story becomes one of the most memorable examples of sacrifice in the Dance of the Dragons. Tommy Flanagan may have arrived in House of the Dragon as a familiar face, but as Roddy the Ruin, he leaves behind one of Season 3's most unforgettable performances. And if you recognize that distinctive face and voice but couldn't remember where you'd seen him before, now you know. That's Tommy Flanagan, the man behind Roddy the Ruin.